really passionate about film, and I always wanted to find a way to incorporate talking about film on this channel, but I always struggled to do so because when I came back from the theater, I wanted to gather my thoughts a bit. Sometimes it took a bit too long to gather my thoughts, and then on YouTube the time people are interested in reviews goes by so fast, and then also kind of my motivation went away. So I was like, man, I'm really putting way too much pressure on this than there needs to be. So I was like, why don't I just compile some movies that I recently watched and talk about them in a casual way? And then I remembered, wasn't there this series on YouTube that I used to watch that did that? So I looked it up, and his name is Carsten Ronquist. I hope I said the name correctly. If you're interested in film, check out his channel. He makes some really good videos. I mostly want to talk about films because that's what I'm really passionate about, but I might mention some other things I watched if it really captured my attention or I just want to mention it for some reason. For example, at the start of the year, I started watching One Piece again. I took a break after Wano, so I was really excited to get back into it, and man, it's really good. Egghead, so far, I'm still not finished. I'm like halfway through. I'm really enjoying it. The animation is solid. They switched up the animation again. By the way, no worries, no spoilers. Because I was already with Wano, I was like, damn, this animation looks really good, really different. And then I heard that they changed it again for Egghead. I was like, what? Really? Man, I love the art style so much. But I have to say, man, this art style is really good. I might even go as far as to say that this is the definitive One Piece art style. It just fits it so well, especially if you look at Eiichiro Oda's drawings. I think this is pretty close to them, at least as close as we've ever been. Don't get me wrong, I really liked the old way the anime looked. Halfway through it kind of started looking a bit funky, then it started looking good, and now we're here. I like the futuristic look that Egghead has. It's very different from how One Piece usually looks, and it really reminded me of Dragon Ball, especially the buildings and some of the technology you see. Everything has rounded edges to it, kind of like in Dragon Ball. It would make sense since Akira Toriyama was a big inspiration to Eiichiro Oda, but it could just be a coincidence. Also, one of the characters, called Shaka, had a helmet that looked very similar to Guy Manuel's helmet from Daft Punk, and I'm a big Daft Punk fan, so that was really cool to see. And I also have to say, in terms of the stretching, it's getting way better. In Wano, it already got a bit better here and there. They really stretched the story out a bit, but in Egghead so far, I have to say, like, the pacing feels pretty solid. I still notice it here and there where they clearly are trying to make it longer, but overall it feels like a very good paced out show, and I'm really excited what the future brings. Probably not gonna be too much long until it's finished, probably a couple of years, because I mean, it's still pretty long, but if you like think grand scheme of things, probably like 2-3 more arcs. Yeah, can definitely recommend it. So the first film I'm gonna talk about is one that I actually watched last year, but because of recent events I wanted to talk about it. The movie is Blue Velvet. I actually got the double feature with Dune, and obviously, as you all know, David Lynch sadly passed away. I have to say, it hit me pretty hard. There was something about him, the way he talked, his movies, obviously. It's like one of those where like really hits you. Obviously I didn't know him, but still, it's like always sad if somebody passes away, but if it's such an incredible mind that has to go, it just sucks. Like, there's no nice way of putting it. But yeah, Blue Velvet, I really enjoyed it. It's like such a creative movie. The way story plays out and the way the visual storytelling plays out, it's like something I've never seen. The way David Lynch tells his stories is so unique, because with other movies, you can kind of like figure out how it plays out. You can see things and try to guess how it's gonna play out. You see some scenes, it's like, oh yeah, I probably would have done this and that. With David Lynch, it's like, what the fuck is going on? I'm sorry for swearing, but seriously, it's just his mind, his pure mind displayed on screen. He doesn't hide it. He just makes what he wants to. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. That's also kind of the point. That's also something I really, really love. His movies often don't necessarily make sense. You kind of make your own sense of it. They're very subjective, and I love that. A big reason why I decided to watch this film was because it, and David Lynch's way of filmmaking in general, was a big inspiration to Silent Hill, telling abstract stories from your mind that feel oddly familiar yet so far away, the feeling of a fever dream. There's a shot in Silent Hill 2 that's almost one-to-one from Blue Velvet. It's very interesting to see Team Silent's inspiration and the way they use it to tell a completely different story. But let me talk about this movie in particular. Very interesting story. It plays out kinda slow at the beginning, but it ramps up pretty quickly. Certain items get placed, you see them, and you're like, huh? And then it's just thing after thing after thing happens, and the way the story unfolds is so interesting to watch. It's pretty crazy. I think this is one of his more mild films, but still, like, it gets pretty brutal, especially at the end. Like, one of the scenes is like, oof, pretty rough. But yeah, I really love the movie. Also, the music is like so good. I was like, damn, there's some good tunes here. I really like the movie. I can definitely recommend it. I also watched Dune, but I fell asleep. I hate to say it. Not because I didn't like the movie. No, what I saw, I really liked it. It was interesting to see the differences. And I was just really tired. And yeah, it's kind of a long movie. So, no, not that long, but, you know, long enough to fall asleep if you watch it at like 11 p.m. or something. But I'm definitely gonna rewatch it so I can talk about it because I really want to watch it. Okay, next we have We Live in Time. That movie I actually watched in the theater, and before hearing anything about the movie, I saw some promotional material with Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh, and I thought, oh, okay, they're in a movie together, it looks kind of interesting. So I thought I might watch it. Probably a romance from the picture, that's all I knew, and both good actors. So I was like, let's go and watch it, and I was very pleasantly surprised. Well, not surprised, I didn't expect it to be bad, but I liked it. The way the story plays out is kind of unique. It's not linear, which I did not expect at all. I was like, okay, I know what's gonna happen, this and that, but pretty quickly it just like changes. 3 years ago, 5 years in the future, and it's like 4 and back and 4 and back. And I kind of thought that was a very interesting way to do it, because with memories sometimes it's like that. Obviously it isn't actually like that, like things happen linear, but your memories sometimes work in mysterious ways. So I think it was kind of reflecting that, the characters going through time, everything goes very fast and then like suddenly goes slow, and then you're there and you don't even remember what happened. And so it's kind of like a compilation of their memories. At least that's what I got off it. The acting was incredible. Both of them gave really strong performances. I first thought it would be something like Marriage Story with Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson, also a really good movie, but it's not. It's pretty different, but the acting is at the same level, I would say. Like, Andrew Garfield gives pretty much his A game. Florence Pugh, as always, gives her A game. It's pretty much just a story of two people meeting each other, dealing with life and dealing with things that happen, some good, some bad. And yeah, I thought it was a good movie that makes you happy and emotional at the same time. So yeah, I recommend it. The next movie I watched was Nosferatu. Also watched in the theater in IMAX, and damn, that movie is like, that's something else. If you don't know, I mean, probably everybody knows, but if you don't know, it's from Robert Eggers. He directed The Witch, Northman, Lighthouse. Probably my favorite of his. And yeah, like always, a story in the past, the look unique as always. Like the way this film looks, I don't think I've ever seen a film that looks like this. It looks like an old movie, but with the technology of today. So you get that feel. It just looks like if you went back and gave them a bit more money, gave them the technology, that's pretty much how it looks. And that's just incredible. There's not a lot of movies that do this. And especially like one scene with the shadows, oh my god. There was like one with, I don't want to spoil it, but the shadows in this movie, it sounds weird talking about shadows, but trust me, if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. Those, incredible. Like, so much of it is in camera, the way they do the lighting. I saw like a bunch of videos about it. The cinematographer places the lights super high so they can imitate the moon, or they try to imitate the moon. For him, it's still not high enough. Like, if he could, he would use the actual moon, but obviously you can't always use the moon, it's not possible. So sometimes you have to work with what you can. But yeah, the cast absolutely stacked and incredible. I wouldn't say I absolutely love the movie, and it's probably not gonna be one I rewatch, but it's definitely memorable and I recommend it. Just the imagery alone was so interesting to see. The lighting was incredible. The way the night scenes looked had like this bluish hue to it, and it almost felt like you were watching kind of black and white footage with a hint of blue. And man, it's just so good. Like, really creative filmmaking that gives you hope for the future of films, because this is what we're seeing less and less and less. So having a filmmaker like Robert Eggers really gives you hope for the future. And also one thing I want to talk about, Nosferatu himself. I am Nosferatu. I will suck your blood. Okay, doesn't sound anything like him. The actual actor that plays him, Alexander Skarsgård, I believe is his name. He also played Pennywise in it. Like, he does a phenomenal job. The makeup on him, his mannerisms, everything about it, just incredible. And at first, you don't even see him. A big part of the movie, you don't even see him. So they like play it up, and I thought that was incredible as well. Next, we have Carry On. So I saw the movie on Netflix, like in the background. It was like, oh, this looks interesting. And I have to say, I did enjoy the movie, but I was kind of disappointed because it felt like a bunch of movies I had already watched. Like, for example, Red Eye. I have to say, Red Eye is just a better version of this movie, kind of. And also the one where like there's a telephone on the street, like it rings, and then like a random person picks the telephone up, and then it's like, ooh, you have to listen to me, otherwise I'm gonna kill people. So it felt like a combination of those kind of movies, but a bit worse, because with the other cases it was a bit more subtle, and you found things out throughout the movie, which it was also the case with Carry On. But immediately you know who the guy is, you kind of know that he's bad immediately, the villain, because at the beginning of the scene you see exposition pretty much. It's not like straight up exposition because they are showing it, but it is exposition. I think they should have gotten rid of that scene in the beginning and just let you find out with the character what happens, because you see like, okay, something bad happens, and then you cut to the airport and okay, so he's gonna go to the airport next. It's like, I mean, obviously I already knew it because I saw like the short trailer on Netflix, but I don't know, I think they should have played it more subtle than like straight up show you. But I guess that's Netflix for you. They want to like handhold you. I have to say, I did enjoy the movie, but it didn't reach those heights that I initially hoped it would when I saw the banner on Netflix. But one thing I can really praise is Taron Egerton and Jason Bateman. Their chemistry was really good. Both of their acting was really good. It was really interesting to see Jason Bateman in a villain role. I don't know if he has done one before. He's probably done one out there at some point, but I haven't seen it yet. In Ozark, he kind of played not the hero, but kind of, but he wasn't a straight up villain. So that was the first time for me personally when I saw him playing a villain, and I have to say he did a really good job. So next up, we have A Real Pain. I already did a full-on review on my channel for this movie, so if you're interested in that, you can watch it there. But real quick, I'll just say, very interesting. It feels like a realistic display of family relationships. I enjoyed the movie and I recommend it. Next up, we have Heretic. I have to say, when I initially watched it, I wasn't very positive on it, but when I gave it a bit more thought, I was like, okay, there is a lot of detail put into the movie. If you really pay attention, a lot of it makes sense, and the way the movie was crafted, I thought was very, very smart. So I can't say it's a bad movie. It's probably even a good movie, but for me personally, it never really grabbed my attention. I think with horror movies in particular, it's very important to play with the tension. The pull and push of the tension is very important for horror movies to do, and with me, it just didn't capture to do that. Like with other movies, I can pinpoint one scene where the movie had me, and then from that on, it's just uphill. This movie doesn't have that. It doesn't, for me personally, and it's a bummer because I do like a lot of things about this film. Like, for example, the way this film looks, absolutely incredible. Like, really, this movie, chef's kiss. The cinematography is so good. There's so many unique shots and creative ways of showing things. Like, there's this one scene of a character running. I don't want to spoil it, but I'm going to describe it very like vaguely. There's a scene of a character running, and it like zooms out, and it just like changes completely the way it looks. I don't want to spoil it, but if you know, you know. That's about as vague as I could be with that. I don't know if you watch that, I hope you know what I mean. I do like a lot of the things, but it didn't grab me, sadly. And one other thing, the actors were absolutely incredible. Every performance was so good. Hugh Grant as the like likable old guy, and then you find out more and more stuff, was so good. Sophie Thatcher, her performance also incredible. The things she can do with her face is so good. You just look at her and you're like, whoa, you feel it. You know what I mean? mean. I've seen like a trailer before this movie for Companion, also a movie where Sophie Thatcher is in, and there was one scene where she was like crying. I heard like a really like crazy thing, like apparently she can control which eye she can cry with. I don't know if that's actually true, but if it is, that's insane. So yeah, like the things she can do with her face, absolutely incredible. Chloe East also did a really good job. She has kind of a character arc. It did a bit come out of nowhere. It's kind of believable, but it's like very quick character development that like it's almost the exact opposite what the character was at the beginning, but it was nice to see at least. But yeah, overall, as I said, I did like a lot of parts of the movie, but it didn't capture me. With horror movies, I need that for me personally to really hold me and be in it like a theme park ride almost, and like see where it leads me. I still recommend it, especially one thing about the movie that I think is very interesting, the way it talks about religion. I think it does it very well without like pissing people off, or at least I would say so. I think they did it very tastefully, the way they talked about religion, because they raised a lot of questions about it. It makes you think. The one thing about this movie that's really good is the conversations you can have with people after watching the movie. And I also think if you're a religious person or not is really gonna change the way you look at this movie. And I think both can watch it. So I think that was like very well and fine line they were treading, and they did it really well in my opinion. So next up we have Sisu. I heard a lot of talk about this movie, wanted to watch it for a long time, but I never did. Now I finally did, and I have to say I did like it. It's not like I'm like saying it's a bad movie, but I don't think it's that great. It does have some really good action scenes, some very creative shots, the way the action is shown, the way things play out, but I don't know, I think like for example at the start it shows you some exposition. I think it would have been better without that, just kind of lead you into that world with the old guy and see what this is about, and then you slowly find out what it is about. But they wanted some exposition. It was pretty epic exposition, the way it like was shown with like the burning thing that I don't want to say the name of, and like the way like the voice and everything, it sounded very epic, but I think it would have been better without it. And one thing that also disappointed me, as somebody that speaks German, there are soldiers of the Second World War that shall not be named and they didn't speak German, and that kind of like threw me off, because I was like, why would they talk in English in Finland with a random guy they're seeing? I'm like, that kind of took away my suspension of disbelief for a bit. And I know it's a Finnish film, so it's probably difficult for them to get German actors, but that's the story they chose to make about the Second World War. So I think there should at least be some German, and like there should be a creative explanation why they're not talking in German. Like I think, for example, in Inglourious Basterds, Quentin Tarantino does a really good job with that. There's some things you can critique about it, obviously about him as well, but I think one thing that he does very well in that movie, the way the languages are shown. You see French, you see German, you see English, and when the language changes, it makes sense. And this movie just didn't do that at all. It didn't care really, and I think that, at least for me personally, kind of took me away. But overall, I think it is an entertaining movie, but for me personally, it wasn't as incredible as I've heard other people describe it as. So yeah, I finally got to talk a bit about movies on this channel. It's not the first time, but the first time where I'm doing like a video like this where I just really talk about movies. I have to say, I enjoyed it. I hope you did as well, and thank you for watching.